Hi there, I'm the Critic Hat, and in this video we applied Blake Snyder's beat sheet from Save the Cat to the 2012 coming-of-age drama Mud, written and directed by Jeff Nichols. As Blake Snyder would say, let's beat it out! The opening image sees our main character Ellis step out of his houseboat and travel on foot to meet his friend Neckbone. We sense his parents don't know he's up to this, and wouldn't approve of it either. The two boys get into a small boat and row along the waters off the Mississippi River to an island where they found a boat stuck up a tree. They claim it as theirs, but is it? The theme is about what the character needs rather than wants. This is about Ellis's search for a role model, someone he can trust and who trusts him in return. Someone to light up his imagination and encourage him to believe that life can be more than what his parents see it as, pure drudgery and sweaty disappointment. This is why Ellis admires Neck's relationship with his uncle Galen, played by Michael Shannon. Though he has a very small role, we see that Galen acts more like a kind and understanding older brother to Neck than an uncle, compared to Ellis's own father, who is an old disciplinarian, bitter and mean. Though Ellis doesn't mind living by the river, the town doesn't look safe. There's an ominous quietness about the place. People watch each other with suspicious eyes. The island, on the other hand, has a slightly magical, unspoiled and timeless feel about it. It's a place where Ellis can be free from the harsh, unloving discipline of his parents. The boys realise that the boat has been used recently.
We got company!
They soon come across our titular character Mud, played by Matthew McConaughey.
Alright.
A fugitive who is lying low here while waiting for something or somebody to provide him with the means to move on or clear his name. He happens to have grown up in the same area Ellis lives in and knows Ellis's old lonely neighbour, Tom Blankenship. He'll be an important character later on. Mud asks the boys to get food for him in exchange for the boat. The boys discuss with each other whether they should help Mud or not. Neckbone thinks Mud is a bum, but Ellis is curious about him.
I don't know. I think he just needed a little help.
Eventually, the boys agree to return to the island and help Mud.
I think it's the right thing to do.
You're a good boy!
Ellis bags some home food for Mud, sneaks off and joins Neckbone to set off to the island to help Mud. Though they are returning to a familiar spot, they are in Mud's world now. Mud thanks the boys for the food and reveals that he's waiting for his old girlfriend Juniper, played by Reese Witherspoon. Ellis is in awe of Mud when he hears his story of surviving a deadly snake bite. To Ellis, Mud is the definition of a cool dude. Later on, Ellis and Neckbone spot a girl who happens to match the description of Juniper. She lives close by, in a motel next to the local supermarket. At the start of the film, we hear that Ellis has a crush on an older high school girl called May Pearl. So far, he has been too shy to talk to her. However, his meetings with Mud seem to have given him courage because when a guy harasses May Pearl, Ellis punches him square in the jaw.
Hey!
That show of strength earns him May Pearl's gratitude and the offer of a date. That's twice you've scored, Ellis. Later, Ellis asks May Pearl to be his girlfriend, and she gives him a kiss by way of confirmation.
You are one lucky duck!
There are a couple of B stories in this film. From the start, we know that Ellis's parents are not getting along. 28 minutes into the film, they tell their son that they're getting a divorce. I'm really surprised that a 14-year-old like Ellis did not figure this out sooner. Ellis's mother wants to move with him to a place nearer the town centre, which would mean he'd have to give up the boathouse. Ellis is furious about this. He sees his mother as selfish for breaking up the family and blames his father for forcing him to move away. It seems the only adult he can really turn to is Mud. This is when we get to the second B story, between Mud and Juniper. Their relationship contrasts with Ellis's parents, or so we think at first. To Ellis, Mud's devotion to Juniper is hugely romantic and gives him something positive to root for. 36 minutes into the film, Ellis agrees to help Mud get in touch with Juniper. When the boys find out that Mud is a fugitive, Neckbone wonders why Ellis is still sticking up for Mud. Ellis replies,
He loves her, Neck. He told me.
Mud's love for Juniper is like a beautiful boat that could take him out of this place to somewhere happier. Mud confesses that he killed Juniper's latest boyfriend, who got her pregnant and pushed her down a flight of stairs, causing her to lose her unborn child. Ellis still sees Mud as a hero for having acted decisively in the name of love. The police are not the only people looking for Mud. The boyfriend's family, who are members of a gang, are also looking for him. Mud plans to use the boat stuck up the tree to get away in, but he needs boat parts to fix it. Mud asks Ellis to get old Tom, a neighbour of his who Mud knew growing up, to help them. Tom refuses to help Mud because he sees Juniper as the source to all of Mud's troubles. Even though Mud loves her, she would hook up with bad boys, run back to Mud when things didn't work out, then go back to bad boys again.
A never-ending cycle of fulfillment.
Tom advises Mud to end the relationship and tells the boys to stay away, but Ellis refused to believe Tom. Mud assigns Ellis a task to get a note to Juniper. The boys arrive at the motel to find Juniper being attacked by a man who is demanding she give up Mud's whereabouts. Ellis jumps in and does what he does best. It turns out this guy is the boyfriend's brother. The whole gang, led by the father, King Carver, is in town and is stalking Juniper in order to catch Mud. Ellis picked the wrong man to have a fight with. The stakes are getting higher. The midpoint comes when Mud manages to get the wrecked boat down from the tree. Everything the boys have done so far has brought him to this point, and he's now free to row away to freedom. Except, for the love of a woman, he delays his escape. With the boat almost done, the air's heavy with tension. Ellis calls Juniper to tell her that he's picking her up and taking her to Mud the next day. Juniper sounds hesitant.
Not a good sign.
Meanwhile, the bad guys keep a close eye on the boys. If the boys are seen again near Juniper, they are screwed. The next day, Ellis goes to the motel to find Juniper gone. He tracks her down at a bar and finds her flirting with another man. Seems like Tom's been right all along. Ellis reports back to Mud, who is devastated by the news. Will he still take Juniper with him? The next day, Ellis's parents ask their son what he's done with the motor that's missing. Ellis lies about having given it to Mud. Ellis has grown so used to being on the island with Mud that he has become a criminal himself.
You telling me I raised a thief?
The dad takes Ellis's bad deed a bit too personally, reminding Ellis and his mum of the upcoming loss of their boathouse, a possession that he never claimed but always valued.
Neither one of you's got any respect for man's livelihood.
This distrust for one another puts further strain on the family. In the original script, Senior goes as far as throwing his wife's clothes on a bonfire. Now that's going way too far, dude. Mud asks Ellis to pass to Juniper one final note. In the script version, there's a huge chunk of dialogue from Mud that Nichols cuts out. Mud talks about a dream he had of seeing Juniper lying in a field with another man. Angry, Mud wants to murder him, but he walks over to them. This would have been Mud's dark night of the soul moment, the moment when he would have had second thoughts about the escape. In the script, Mud says, "I'll finish the boat, but I'd be surprised if I live long enough to sail on it. A vision of yourself is a sure sign of death."
Wow, that sounds pretty dark.
Even though Mud is the eponymous character, the film is not about him, it's about Ellis, which is why this dialogue was cut out. Ellis finds out that Mud is breaking off the relationship with Juniper, who is very upset by the news. Ellis wonders why his new girlfriend is not talking to him anymore, and when he spots May Pearl hanging out with another guy, he confronts her. May Pearl breaks up with Ellis in front of her friends. To her, Ellis is just a kid with a crush, someone not to be taken seriously.
I love you.
He says.
You're 14.
She says back, almost sneering.
What a bitch.
Ellis is heartbroken, and his innocent view of love takes another dent. Ellis is furious with Mud for breaking up with Juniper.
You're a liar!
And accuses him of using him. He accuses him of being a coward who doesn't care at all that he's turning him into a criminal.
You made me a thief!
Ellis feels he has no one left to look up to. Running away, Ellis falls into a pit of venomous snakes and gets bitten. Mud finds him and carries him off the island and rushes into a local A&E, putting himself at risk of being apprehended. Someone does recognize him from wanted posters and calls the police department. A cop there, clearly corrupt, tips off the Carver gang. Ellis survives the snake bite. His worried parents watch over him. It's like they're back to being a whole family again, although we know it won't last. Mud and Neckbone finish renovating the boat. Before Mud leaves for good, He drops around to Ellis's boathouse to say goodbye. But their emotional farewell is interrupted when the Carver gang starts shooting the place up. With the help of old Tom, Mud protects Ellis and together they wipe out most of the gang, including King Carver's other son. Mud gets away but is shot as he dives into the river. Ellis fears for his dear friend's life, but Mud has at least redeemed himself in his eyes. Ellis's parents finally separate. The boathouse is torn down and Ellis moves in with his mother. His father takes a job far away, so Ellis won't be seeing him again for a long time. But Ellis accepts the new situation. He even experiences a small ray of hope when a bunch of attractive older girls wave to him.
Alright!
Meanwhile, Mud is still alive and is travelling with old Tom on his boat. They head to the mouth of the Arkansas River and south to the Gulf of Mexico. Mud is finally free from the police, the Carver gang, and even from his dysfunctional relationship with Juniper. He can finally start afresh with his so-called father, Tom. Whereas the opening image is dark and secretive, the final image is bright and wide open, promising second chances in a safer world.